Good morning guys, and welcome back to another episode of Barham Engines. So just got into work here. Weather's starting to get a bit more mild now. We've got our track day next weekend at Castle Combe, where we're going to first meet our BMW. If any of you guys are near Bristol and want to pop over and say hello, please feel free to do so. That is Saturday of next week. Before we go in the workshop, guys, thanks ever so much for subscribing. If you haven't yet subscribed, please hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and you'll be notified whenever we do a video. Cheers. Right, so these three engines we got on the go at the moment. So we've got the BMW V8 Pinto engine, and we've also got the Rover V8, the MGB V8. So the BMW, told you in the last video or two what's happened with the crank. We've got that rear main thrust bearing that got blocked by the foreign material in the oil gallery, thus causing obviously it to tear the bearing apart just on that one, and obviously not doing the crank any favours. So John has set the crank up and he has clocked the big ends, and the big ends are absolutely perfect. So all he's done is polish those. The mains needed to be ground at 0.5. They wouldn't quite clean at 0.25. We've had to grind them at 0.5. Now, Mar Motorsport, we have been dealing with them. They sent us some crank bearings which are listed for the N62 and N63, but apparently on this year vehicle, when we got the bearings, they're not quite right. They're slightly too narrow, tags on the wrong side, not perfect, and I think they're actually 2 mil smaller anyway. So yeah, apparently on the first couple of years of this engine, they run different size shells. None of us knew that. So we've gone ahead and ground the crank on the promise that we can get crank bearings. Unfortunately, they've turned up, they're not right. So we're left with a crank that is 0.5 down on the mains. So we're in a predicament. We've gone ahead and ordered all the rest of the bits from BMW actually for this, because believe it or not, they're not that much more expensive than factors. The only thing it is quite expensive is the oil pump. Now, Paul at Mar Motorsport did have a look on his system, and he said that apparently BMW supply 0.25 and 0.5 on the mains on these, and I thought, I find that hard to believe. I'm not sure. I know they colour code the bearings, and these are colour coded, but whether he means that, I don't know. But sure enough, I've gone to Westerly BMW, and he has sent me the information he's got on his computer, and sure enough, they do supply 0.5s. I thought, ideal. Now, the only weird thing is, although they supply 0.5s, which means you've obviously got to grind the crank. Now, we all know when you grind the crank, you've got about sort of 0.6 of a thou tolerance from top to bottom when you grind the crank. But weirdly enough, usually when you buy undersized bearings or oversized, they will just come as one size, that's it, 0.5s. But from BMW, even the 0.25s and 0.5s are still colour-coded, which makes no sense to me whatsoever, because how do they know which colour you're meant to use? Because they don't know what you've ground the crank to. They don't know whether you're top or bottom limit on the tolerance. So whether they mean they supply the different colours and you grind the crank, you buy all the colours, do a dummy build, plastic gauge it, see what you've got, and then you know which colour to order, maybe, but then you've gone and bought a couple of shells for no point really, and they're not cheap. They're about £25–30 a shell. So that is the only way forward, bar buying another crank, which they don't list. Well, they list a crank, but they don't do the cranks anymore for these. So it'd have to be second hand. And we all know with a second hand, you don't know what you're going to be getting, and the chance of it being okay standard and not bent or anything is slim. Else why would it be out the engine? From doing our measurements, providing that the greens are centre limit, from what we've ground the crank on, I think we're going to go for all greens, and just obviously we'll do a dummy build with the greens, plastic gauge it, see what clearance we got. But I'm feeling that, to be honest, it's going to be within the limits. So I'm going to order the greens, going to do a dummy build with a pair of greens and see what we got. But that's where we are on this BMW V8, guys. Got all the other bits coming. Pistons are in perfect order, so we're just going to re-ring this. As you all know, we don't normally re-ring, but it's an Aliasil bore, and you can't do anything with that bore anyway. It measures perfect. So as long as the ring lands are okay, there's no wear in the ring lands of the piston, and the skirt measures what it should be, I'm quite happy to use them. So yeah, ordered all the gaskets, new oil pump. Obviously we'll get the bearings sorted, and then we can get this on its way. The Pinto engine, as you can see, that's got a little bit of blue on there. Now on camera it probably looks a bit more purpley, but in real life that looks a really nice blue, and it looks like a lot of the blues that I've seen them use on the BDA engines. So that, I think, for this, for what it is, for the car it's in, that's going to be perfect. As I say, there's probably no set blue for this. They just there's loads of different colour combinations, and this was under a sort of classic Ford engine blue, so I'm happy to use that. I hope the customer's happy with it, and I think it should look absolutely great in the car. So again, used Mar Motorsport, ordered all the bits for this. We've got 0.5 pistons, we have got all the crank bearings, gaskets, all the rest of it. That's on its way. So with a bit of luck, guys, we've got the pistons on the rods now for the Rover V8. Within the next week or two, we should have all the bits for these, and hopefully in the next 2 or 3 weeks we can have all these done and on their way. Once we've got one of these off this engine stand, we're going to get the M52 on, and we're going to get that stripped ASAP and see what we've got going on in there and give the customer the good or bad news. Right guys, update on the last video, thumbnail of last video, regarding the potential false invoice. So we have got back to the customer. We've tried ringing, no answer. We have sent an email saying that we obviously, can you provide proof of this email with the details on it. Heard nothing back, had no response, no answer on the mobile. So all I can think is that someone has had an invoice for a job from here. If it is a cash invoice, usually with a cash invoice we'll do it on a small job like a alley wheel repair or something minor like that. So whether they've doctored that cash invoice, put a sort of a bogus title like engine and also a bogus invoice number, change that, and it just sort of corresponds to Chris Long's one, I don't know. But as of yet, guys, we're having no response. So if we do, we'll let you know. But at the moment, yeah, really weird. And thanks a lot for your comments down below on that. So guys, as you can see, I have been a bit of a busy bee this morning. It's absolute pleasure to get to build a bottom end for quite a while now. I haven't built anything. Paul's been doing it, and I've been doing machining and paperwork and dealing with customers. So it's quite nice to spend a couple of hours or so actually putting the crank and rods in. So this is as far as we've got. This is the V8 MGB V8 engine, 3.5. You can see that it's all been blasted and painted, looking very, very pretty. Obviously we don't paint inside here because this is all immersed in oil. And you can't see that anyway, so the last thing we want is paint coming off there. I've seen that actually before. People painting here, it looks lovely and pretty. Paint flakes off, goes in the, blocks the oil ways and scraps the engine, so brilliant. We can see we've got new lifters in there, brand new camshaft in there. It's all been bored, pistons are all modified. You see the crankshaft. Crankshaft is all in and turns absolutely sweet as a nut. Cylinder heads are all gone through here and painted, looking really nice. The only thing I've had to just do is make some new dowels for the cylinder head here. Obviously, 9 times out of 10 with them, you have to muller them to get them out. Gaskets are on, so the next step here, guys, is get the cylinder heads on. But before we go any further there, can we just admire the Pinto block that Paul has spent quite a lot of time, as I said in the last video, getting all the paint off and what have you, and now we have painted it in the new blue. We've got the silver sump there. He's just going to paint the ancillaries and what have you. We should have most of the bits for this today, and then Paul can crack on and build it. Although, the only thing we're going to be waiting on, the cylinder head. We've put new guide sleeves in, so we've done our bronze guide sleeves. All we've got to do is cut the seats on that. but we are unable to do so because, as you can see, what was the head for the Myra Centronic valve seat cutter is no longer there, and the reason for that is the centering button has packed in, so we have got that thing boxed up and out in the office waiting to be collected, and we're going to have to get that repaired. So this is going to be a week or two out of action, unfortunately. So any valve seats that need cutting at the moment, we cannot do so. So that is going to be holding us back, but he can at least get the bottom end all built. But yeah, really like that colour, and I think what we're going to do when we build the E30 and put the S50 in it, I feel that the block has got to be that colour. It's a bit of an M Sport BMW blue anyway, as Paul pointed out. So get that S50 with all the rest of the bits, and we clean it all up, paint it. We're obviously going to give the engine a bit of a freshen up, but I'm feeling the blue going on the block, and that's going to look really nice. So on the stand we've got the M50. It's an M52, this, Paul.
M52 TU.
M52 as promised.
Double Vanos.
If we just look over there quickly, the V8 from the last video is all done. MGB V8, as you can see, under the cloth, ready to go, all paid up, and looking a lot better than when it come in. We've got the satin black rocker covers. We just take this off so we can have a little look. What do you think, Isaac?
I think it's very nice.
It's very, very nice.
Yep.
So we've got on this one, we've got new pistons plus 5.5 mil. We've got the high flow new oil pump there with the it's 5 mil deeper. Crank assembly's all balanced and ground and what have you. So yeah, looks very nice. So in its place, we've got the M52. John's on video.
Get all four of us in, shall we? Get all four of us in. We'll give us a little lever up.
So all we want to do is just get this one stripped and just see what we've got inside.
Give it a little.
So the engine was still running, although it was apparently it was using oil like it's going out of fashion and smoking a bit. So on these BMW alley blocks, really it's usually one of two problems or a mixture of the both. It can either be rings, the bores can wear, or both. But with a bit of luck, fingers crossed, when we get the head off this, we're not going to have much wear in the bores, and hopefully it's just the rings. Because we've got this one on the stand, I just want to say to the gentleman who I know is probably going to be watching with the TVR block over there, it's all stripped, and that is, once we've got this one stripped, this TVR is next on the list, so don't panic. Here we go.
You strong enough officially? Look at that. Look
Here
at
we
that.
go. The cylinder head on a bit of card there, protect the face. So what have we got inside? All looks fairly good on the block face at first inspection, which the BMWs normally do, to be honest. So you can see plenty of oil around the bores, look here.
Let's get a inspection on it, shall we?
And it's obviously, but by the crowns, it's been burning quite a lot of oil. You can see the rings are doing precisely bugger all. And the good news is, just by the feel of the groove at the top, where the top ring stops for the top of the bore, they didn't seem to be anywhere at all. So with a bit of luck, that looks very ringy to me. So let's get the sump off, Paul, innit? Get those pistons out.
Yes, big boy.
And we're hoping to see big ring gaps and razor sharp centre rings.
And if we don't, well, who knows? Cut that bit out.
Just cut him out.
I'm just in Friday, innit? It's just one of those days.
That'll do. Well, that's it for another video, guys. Have a great weekend, and until Mondays, like, subscribe, and we'll see you then. Cheers.